So we're here to talk about blocking. What is blocking?
Oh, it's the scariest thing in the whole wide world, and I don't know what to do or how to do it, and I might get it wrong.
That's a terrible definition of blocking.
That's what people usually tell me about it, so I think that must be what it is.
Why do you think people are so scared of blocking?
Well, first of all, I think it's because it's a word. So if you call it a thing, if you have a word for something, it becomes a big thing and like a big definition.
Right.
And it becomes intimidating immediately. Like an SSK sounds like it's a thing.
Right.
And so at first it's really scary, but really I'd say that blocking is no more scary than an SSK.
Right. I would agree.
Okay.
And there are different levels of blocking. There are different types of blocking. The whole point of blocking is to take that piece of knitting that you have worked on for so long and poured your time and your talents and your money into, and to really freshen it up, make sure it's clean, and give some life to the fibers, right?
Flatten some stitches out so that they look a little bit more even, because we all have our ways of knitting that aren't necessarily even.
And it can also help open up patterns like lace patterns, which tend to scrunch up when you knit them. So blocking can help with that.
I always think of it when a shawl or any kind of garment hits water to be blocked, what happens is the stitches are kind of compacted, and when they hit the water, they open back up again. And then as they dry back up again. But when they've been opened, they even out.
Yeah.
And then they dry back into a more even looking fabric. And that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's hand wash, lay flat to dry. That's all there really is to blocking. And then there's variations on that theme.
Right. So what are some factors that you consider when you are getting ready to block something?
I don't.
You That's not true.
Well, I don't. I just hand wash it and lay it flat to dry.
And that's your choice because of your time, the space that you have available, and the tools that you're willing to use, right? And these are all factors that come into play. I mean, there are things, there's so many things out there. There are blocking mats, there are T-pins, there are like little comey pin things, there are blocking wire, like there's so many implements that can be used, but they don't have to be used.
Right.
And some of the factors that you get into are personal preference, availability, time. I have to be able to block my stuff within 12 hours. Either that, or it has to be movable from my bed to the living room floor.
Right, exactly.
Midstream if I want to sleep that night.
This is when a fan comes in really handy.
So there are different things, and I think just like with your knitting, everyone has different preferences. Like we've seen that if you've been involved with the social media things for Road Trip, you've seen people who have changed the pattern or merged two different designs in the same leg, or switched up the colors, or added beads, or, well, I didn't like the spacing there, so I changed it, or I don't like garter, so I made mine stockinette. Like we've seen all of those things, and they're all personal preferences, and I think that comes down to blocking too.
I would say too that the other reason that blocking is intimidating is because there are so many tools. So if you are trying to decide among mats or, different kinds of mats or wires or T-pins, you just get kind of intimidated by how you use these things. And again, all they're doing is helping you lay things out more flat. So really it is hand wash, lay flat to dry, and the pins and the mats and the wires are all ways of creating more flatness and sometimes a little shaping too.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes with blocking you can, if you're using the blocking wires or the pins, you can get really aggressive with that, and sometimes it stretches things out of shape, and that's not great for the fibers either. I do tend, personally, I do tend to pin out picots and points, but then I tend to choose designs that have picots and points. And then part of that is because when I choose those designs, I know what effort I'm interested in doing to block, right? And so if you look at my border for the Pennsylvania road trip, it's got a cute little scalloped edge, right? And do you have to pin out every one of those scallops?
No, you do not.
You don't.
I did not, as a matter of fact.
And it looks beautiful. And from a distance, no one's going to notice.
Well, and the other thing is as we were talking about personal preference, I'm not really a scallopy person. I don't look that good in it. So here's what my edge looks like. When I laid this out, all I did was pull on the lace part just a wee bit. So I pulled this down and I just let it sit there. I didn't pin it. I didn't do anything. And it still looks scallopy.
It looks great.
Yeah, I love it.
And in fact, yours looks scallopy in a different way. You have more of a pronounced curve here, whereas mine ends up actually being more straight. So you can see the individual little loops there at the bottom, but the bottom edge of my shawl is actually more straight than yours is.
And you put a blocking wire the whole way along.
I did.
Correct?
I did mine with blocking wires. I don't have 300 T-pins.
That would be a lot of T-pins. Yeah. There are those who have them, but
I don't have that many, and
it would take you the 12 hours just to pin, right?
It would. And I found that the blocking wires gave a more consistent arc and curve to it. So I did use the blocking wires on my design, but you know what? When I blocked my shawl that has your design in it, find the border here, because it has this nice smooth garter stitch edge, I didn't need blocking wires or anything.
No.
I literally did what you've been talking about. I washed it and I laid it flat to dry, and it was beautiful. And even the lace opened up, like it just didn't.
Right.
The birds are fine, the pirate ships are fine, everything is beautiful. So we wanted to talk about blocking so that it would maybe take some of the scariness away.
Yeah, because seriously, it is not worth getting all hyper over blocking.
And Cynthia told me a story yesterday about a customer who had made a beautiful sweater and had all the pieces that sat in a closet for 30 years because someone told her she needed to block it and she didn't know how and she was too scared of it. And all that work just sat dormant for 30 years.
And I finally said to her, how about if you just sew these pieces? She said, I don't have a place to block it. And I said, well then, how about if you sew the pieces together and move on and hand wash it and lay it flat to dry? And she said, are you serious? I can just do that? I'm like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
So she finally had a sweater after 30 years just because I gave her permission to hand wash and lay flat to dry.
So we're giving you permission.
Yes.
Do we think you should block your shawl? If you're asking, do we think you should hand wash it and lay it flat to dry? The answer is yes.
Yes.
That needs to happen. Wash it,
You've
lay it
been
flat.
working on this a long time. It's probably gotten a little grubby at this point. It needs a bath.
Yes.
And also, a lot of the stitches look better after they've been washed. So
Yeah, they just look more even.
yeah, like especially the rivery,
Yes, the
curvy
short
kinds
rows,
of things.
yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna just look flatter and better once
Yes.
it's blocked.
So definitely hand wash, lay flat to dry. If you want to pin out or use blocking wires, that is fine. You're welcome to do that. It's a
Right.
personal preference. Go for it.
Right.
But don't feel like if you can't do that, that you failed or you can't finish or you're never going to wear your shawl or any of
I
that.
failed. Oh no. I failed Shawl 101.
No. So we want to free you up in that arena, and we hope to see wonderful, wonderful pictures of you wearing your beautiful shawls, and we look forward to it.
And I would like to add one extra little thing.
One more thing.
Yeah, this is not about blocking, but this is about a little finishing thing that
yes.
I did. I would like to let you know that what I did was I sewed my shawl from here down about halfway or so, and I turned it into a poncho. I really love ponchos. I like not having to fiddle with flaps going over my shoulder while I'm working. And I am so excited that I now have 2 ponchos instead of 2 shawls. So I think I'll wear these a lot more because I won't have to, I can wear them at work and be comfortable working. So if you'd like to do that, all you do is a mattress stitch from here to about halfway or wherever you want. It doesn't really matter.
You did it down to the end of leg too.
Yep. And I left the bottom open and flapping just because I thought it was kind of a cool effect. You could probably mattress stitch the whole way down. I wanted it to be a little more free and breezy, so I didn't do that. But
well, and I think what's interesting, yesterday when we did our own personal show and tell and little fashion show, and as we were looking at it, that V-neck look looks so good on you and so bad on me.
Right. It has, I look good in angular V's and things, and you can see even from what we're wearing right now, Valerie looks good with scoop tops and rounded outfits. So if you like that look, if you like a V look, if you have kind of a lot of angles in your face, then the sewing works really well.
But I'm still considering sewing one of mine and actually wearing it asymmetrically so that I get the curve here, but I still have it sewn. I don't think I'll sew both of them. I'm still on the fence.
There's time to think.
You know, sewing seems so permanent.
It is. Well, not completely, but you're not going to take it out once you've done it.
It's not.
Yeah.
Like, I need to be sure.
Yeah, you have to decide that that's the look you want, and I think that's a valid thing to worry about. I'm now ready to sew like every shawl I own. Once I discovered this, I was like, oh, I might actually wear shawls more because they're not going to fall off of me while I'm working. So that's always been my problem with shawls.
Well, I have a couple other ones that I've sewn or I've made like a crocheted cord that I've woven in through the edges so that I could take it in or out. But yeah, it's nice to know it's not going to go flopping.
Yes, exactly. So that's just another little thing that I did that I thought you would maybe enjoy learning about. And we'll write it in the pattern, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
And hey, if you come up with creative ways to wear your shawl, send us a picture. We'd love to see it.